afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Have you had enough? No, I didn't mean of this conference. I meant, have you had enough of this government? Have you had enough of a load of talk and no action? Have you had enough of an opposition which changes its mind every 2 seconds and sends us all dizzy with U-turns? Now, if you really have had enough, if you really want change, then there is only one way of going about that, and that is to reject comprehensively what we have now. Now, Ben Habib said that he wanted to obliterate the Tories. That's not enough. We have to obliterate Labour as well. And never forget the threat that they represent. They want to take us back into the EU by the back door. Of course they don't want to rejoin in the formal sense. That's not going to happen. But what can happen, and what will happen if we end up with Keir Starmer, is that we will simply begin to realign with Europe, to follow their laws, to allow our borders to be dictated to by them, gradually in the name of working closely together. We will find that we are still tied to the EU, which is what this country comprehensively rejected. Now, so don't ever let's forget the danger posed by Labour. If we are to effect change, if we are to see reform effective and taking over and winning, then we need to do it at the expense of both parties. Oh, and I think there's some little third parties, we needn't worry about them. They never really get anywhere. In fact, if you took a vox pop out into the population, you wouldn't get many people being able to name Ed Davey. I'm just helping him a bit by naming him. So, that is what we have to do. And the message that we have to take out is a really very simple one. That if you want change, if you want things done differently, if you want to get our country back again, if you want Britain to be run by Britain and not by the EU or by anybody else, if those are the things that you want, if you want to get rid of the scourge of political correctness, if you want to control immigration, if you want our kids taught the 3 R's instead of critical race theory, if you want the NHS to actually do the job that it was designed to do, if you want all those things, then there is no earthly point in voting for more of the same. There is no point. The very definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So it is crucial that that message gets across. And the whole raison d'etre for reform is reform. It is change. It is to stop the direction that we're going at the moment and create an entirely new direction at the center of which is freedom for the individual. And always, if you are to effect change, you rely on the courage of individuals, the courage to vote for something different, even if you are a bit afraid that they may just let the other side in. The courage to vote for something different. The courage to stand up what you believe in, even if it involves a degree of risk. We have virtually lost free speech in this country because people are afraid to exercise free speech. Well, we need to encourage them to have the courage to defy what is going on. And we should put parents in charge of what their children are taught. We should not, in any circumstances, allow 4-year-olds to be told that they can become man or woman depending on what they feel like. And that they can change their mind on Wednesday afternoon. That is not what we send our children to school for. We send our children to school to be taught what we cannot teach them ourselves. I couldn't teach physics and chemistry, and Rishi Sunak, I couldn't teach maths either. You know, that must be the craziest proposal yet. That children who are very, very clever in some subjects should have their chances of entry to a top university prejudiced because they don't happen to be very good at maths or English. All my life, I have needed arithmetic and I have needed the logic inculcated through algebra. But never since the age of 15 have I bothered with the square on the hypotenuse. And Rishi needs to understand that diluting the curriculum, that diluting subjects, isn't actually what is going to repair the education system. What will repair the education system is the end of grade inflation, rigor in education, and discipline in education. Those are the things that will repair the area. Now, I've been asked to be the spokesman on immigration, and I'm not going to say any more about that this afternoon, because you've already heard about it comprehensively from Nigel, and you've heard about it from Richard, who set out what our plans are. But I've also been asked to be the spokesman for justice. What justice? Where is the justice in having to wait maybe a year or more for your case to be heard? What happened to the fundamental British principle which we gave to the rest of the world of being presumed innocent until proved guilty? Where has that gone? And we should all be equal before the law, black and white, and male and female. And it is quite wrong that somebody can be accused of something and have their name across the press, but their accuser is protected with anonymity, even when it is proved that she is a liar. Justice must be impartial, and it mustn't be subject to politicians worried about statistics. And certainly we should not allow politicians to interfere in the justice system just because they are courting popularity. Justice must operate at arm's length from government. That also has been a principle. But it isn't just criminal law which is so wrong. Family law needs a thorough overhaul. You know, we had Mel Stride saying that the Child Maintenance Service was going to pursue the deadbeat dads. I'm all for that, if only the Child Maintenance Service knew how to get its sums right in the first place. And you know, the biggest scandal of all happened very recently when somebody, I will call him simply Lee, I won't give you his surname, he went into court to challenge an enormous estimate that the Child Maintenance Service had imposed on him, and he went to court. Now, I always thought you could challenge anything in the courts. I thought that was what the courts were for. I thought they were there as a brake on overmighty government, as a brake on crazy or ill-informed or sloppy national institutions. That's what I thought they were there for. And he went to challenge, with all the proofs, the estimate for his arrears that the CMS, and they were substantial, that the CMS had worked out. And up stood the CMS barrister, and he referred the judge to the law itself. And the law states that once an assessment has been made by the CMS, it cannot be queried in a court of law. Exactly, I wouldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it until the actual wording was pointed out to me. And the judge in the case was apparently, I wasn't there, but apparently he was very frustrated. I am not surprised. That is incompatible with the laws of natural justice, and it should be struck from the statute book. And that, Mel Stride, is what you should be looking at with the CMS. So, justice is not being served. It's not being served in the criminal law, it's not being served in the civil law, and as for family law, what rights have grandparents got when there is familial breakup? They have virtually no rights at all, but they should have rights. Unless there is a very good reason to exclude a grandparent from a child's life, then when there is breakup, the ability of the grandparents to see their grandchildren should be respected. And if court access orders are deliberately flouted, then action should be taken against the person flouting those access orders, and it shouldn't be the case that the non-resident parent has to go back to court time and time again, usually at his own expense, just in order to get a reiteration of an access order, which is then again flouted. And that is the farce, that is the utter farce that our family courts have become. So there is a very great deal to be done, and we will do a lot of it. We will do a lot of it at high speed if we are elected. But if we are not elected, we can't do it. And that is what we need to say to people. You've got a choice. Vote for more of the same. Get more of the same. Watch your freedom being whittled even further away. Watch your kids being corrupted by ever more nonsense. Watch your country being trashed. Watch its history being trashed. Watch the EU being invited to start dictating to us again. You have a choice. You either have that or you vote reform. Don't talk about holding the balance of power. Don't talk about firing a warning shot across the bows of the big parties. Talk about becoming the government. And yes, that is ambitious. But without ambition, it won't happen. And I'm a great believer that people are sufficiently fed up, and we heard some of the statistics from Matt, that people are sufficiently fed up that at this moment they are prepared to look at the possibility of change. And we need to get in there and we need to talk to them about reform. And every single candidate in this room should not pass a single day without having talked to somebody about reform, and preferably to somebody who hadn't even heard of us, because that is the way you get the message across. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you know, I didn't immediately join reform when the Brexit Party morphed into it. As far as I was concerned, I was never going to be convinced that Brexit was done, and my interest was Brexit. And I didn't join reform. But quite honestly, it didn't take very long for me to realise that that was a mistake, and that nobody else was offering what the country actually wants. And when even Andrew Bailey says that we can get benefit from Brexit, oh boy, we can get benefit from Brexit. But not so long as the leaders of both parties, and it is the leaders of both parties, want to cozy up to the EU, making them the first state visits. What's the matter with the Commonwealth? Paying France money to shepherd the boats towards our waters. And now Rishi's talking about cooperation with Spain. I'll give him his due. When he's set on a daft course, he never gives up. So, we need change. The only way to get change is to vote for it. The only way people are going to vote for it is if we get the message out there. And if we do get the message out there and people have to put up with any more of this nonsense. You know, there wasn't a single word I disagreed with Suella on. It's just that she never does anything. If we want to get rid of this nonsense, then the only way to do it is to offer an alternative that speaks to what the people want. We do that. We must do it more loudly. We must do it more frequently. We must do it more emphatically. We must do it day in and day out. But if we do it, we have the possibility to save our country.